Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Today I've got some amazing yet terrifying Dogman encounters to share with you. Before we get into those encounters, a couple links. The first link I'd like to share with you is Tromic's lead delivery system, home of the original 458 and owned by Tony Remore, true American. He designed an AR upper to be attached to your existing AR lower and blast 458 instead of 223 or 556. He designed this for our troops in the Middle East to stop truck bombs. Straight across the board, guys, if a 458 is gonna stop a truck, it's gonna stop the Dogman. Tromic's link is in the description below, and check out some of Tony's other amazing products. On to my links. As you know, I rely on my Patreon, my PayPal, and my merch to help this channel to continue to grow and go. Those links are in the description below. I also have a second channel for creepypasta, fanfiction, and scary voice acting. Stories that don't really fit on this channel. Now, if that's anything that you're into, follow that link and give them a listen. You may just like what you hear. I also started a GoFundMe page a little while back to help raise some money for Urbex, cryptid hunting, and ghost hunting equipment. I'm working on getting that video out, and I think it's almost done. So hopefully I can have it out to you maybe in the middle of next week, maybe after 4th of July I'm shooting for. And with that, enough jibber jabber chit chat yada yada yada. Let's get on with these Dogman encounters, shall we? Tonight's first encounter was brought to us by a subscriber. Jeff, I live in Western Canada and have been an avid hunter and target shooter since my teen years. I am semi-retired from a military career filled with travel and adventure. Deer hunting was my great passion, and although this never followed through naturally to bear hunting, I never gave up an opportunity to also hunt feral wild boar, with an occasional coyote hunt if a farmer asked for assistance putting down these chicken thieves. Not long ago, while upland bird hunting in the northern Burrell Forest, I bumped into what I can best describe as a hyena, and we both parted ways after my brief encounter at a close distance. It jarred me somewhat, and the very few trusted persons I relayed this to were extremely skeptical, so I just kept my mouth shut onwards. However, I did have plans to encourage other hunters to accompany me to where I first encountered this hyena-like animal. I even had a pretense cover story to bring heavier than usual firearms under the tale that this area is plagued with black bear and wolf packs. Believe me, this is not a huge stretch of the truth in this swampy northern Burrell Forest. I purposely left out the hyena-like beast encounter for fear they would not believe me, or worse still, label me an unreliable kook not to be trusted. I even have a small stockpile of unusual ammunition to choose from. 100 German Brenke classic 12-gauge slugs with felt wad. The Alaskan State Troopers issue this same slug to local grizzly, polar, and black bears. Also, 75 rounds of heavy shot hog wild 6.25 caliber buckshot that's now discontinued remarkably. You would not believe the felt recoil of these rounds through a normal 12-gauge pump action shotgun, but with an improved modified choke, I get about 3-inch spread at 25 meters. Jeffrey, that's mighty comforting to have loaded in your shotgun and lose in your hunting coat pockets in the North Country. Same for the German Brenkes. Anyways, I had 3 good companions in mind that were 2 ex-army buddies and the son of one of these fine gentlemen. I trusted them to be stalwart companions in a tight situation and would never abandon me either. I had them convinced that in our group of 4, 2 each could carry up and one in each pair armed with a 12 gauge, and I would provide the bear bullets just in case. So we could cover each other in case of a close encounter with a bear. You know, this is still a bit deceitful of me, and I regret this thin vial of secrecy. Anyways, a week or so before my plan to return to this hunting party, I was at a local outdoor pistol range on a nice sunny day. I wanted to try out my .45 caliber revolver at a 25-meter range. I was there and had just fired 6 shots and was reviewing my target and about ready to reload. The whispering wind brought to my nose a horrid scent of a dead animal and wet dog combined into one gut-wrenching stench. I was kind of surprised and realized suddenly there was no one else at this range, as the nearby rifle shooters had quietly packed up and left soon after I arrived. My first inclination was it must be a black bear, but I was not taking any chances and quickly, almost frantically, reloaded my .45 revolver. Then I came to another conclusion. I could smell more than one of them at the same time, perhaps even 3. There's no way that only one could be circling me, as there's at least 2 breaks in the edge of the tree line, to my right and left approximately 10 meters each side. Horrified now, I realize I'm literally in the middle of them, encircled, not bears. I've never seen them, but I had a very uneasy feeling of being watched and an ominous, threatening feeling deep in my gut. That distinct odor from at least 3 different locations. But I had mediocre control with my firearm literally within my hand, so my fear was tempered somewhat. Like a flash, it came to me. I had to extricate myself immediately with only my .45 as a means of protection. Without reason or thinking, I announced loudly I was armed and prepared to defend myself. In retrospect, a damn stupid thing to expect results from, but this is a visceral reaction. Loaded handgun held muzzle upwards, I walked quickly back to my Chevy, keeping my trigger finger alongside the trigger guard, all the time trying to watch my 6 as well. Yes, I was now inside my truck cab with a loaded handgun. This is thankfully the very, very rare event for me. One I hope I'll never repeat within my lifetime. I drove out of there very quickly, and I was 2 miles away when I pulled over and first stopped. Then calmly unloaded my revolver and composed myself. While I was doing this, I did have a fixation. Something out there knew I had planned to return to the forest, home, with armed companions. I truly believe it wanted me to know fully well this was a bad idea, and it wanted me to know they knew my life habits and where I was most vulnerable to them at the time and place of their choosing. You can imagine I changed my plans, Jeff. I didn't follow through with my initial plan, and only once did one of my ex-army buddies question my reluctance after initially being so enthusiastic to guide them to this one remote hunting spot. And I have never had this happen to me since at that outdoor range. It was not hard to provide a fabricated excuse to my buddies, and I definitely feel this is the better outcome. I don't believe we truly don't understand the nature and true capabilities of the very unusual forest creature, Jeff. I don't have the tools or means to evaluate this threat. Therefore, it's unworthy and stupid to place others at unknown risk, as well just because you don't want to be alone in front of it. If this was a black bear, wolf, cougar, or wild boar, it would now be having its head hung on my living room wall. But I believe deeply it was none of those. Take care, my friend. Today's second Dogman encounter brings us to Mississippi. In the mid-'80s, my cousin and I, we saw this, I'd call it a werewolf. We saw it on a gravel road, but I was raised a Christian, so seeing something like this, it looked like it was beautiful, but it was evil and bothered me for a long time, until about 1994. My mom called me and she said they had seen something like myself and Elizabeth had seen in Wisconsin. So I did a little research and it made me feel better. Like I wasn't the only one that saw something like this. I came back from Dallas to my little hometown in Mississippi where I had been raised in. My cousin said they're having a Christmas party and I said, look, I want to see a deer because I hadn't seen a deer in a long time. So I'd been in the city. She said, we'll take this poor house road, this little gravel road between the two highways. And so we were riding a little Toyota pickup and the headlights hit what I thought was a deer. It was kind of hunched over in the road and she said, there's one. And she took off real fast with the brights on and we stopped maybe 25 feet from it. Just thinking it's gonna run off into the woods and everything, but it stayed there and it raised up. And it was like maybe 7 feet tall, but it had its back to us. And a little like rabbit or something took off. I remember seeing it going off into the right and just for maybe a second it blurred. Kind of moved back and forth, like when you spin a top and you can't see the pattern on the top because it becomes a blur when it starts spinning. That's why I think maybe it was from another dimension because it spun like that. I mean, it kind of like blurred. Then it stopped and then it turned around and it walked straight. Not like a regular animal running into the woods to the left and to the right to get away. Then it came straight for the driver's side of the Toyota. I was in the passenger side, and it was really, it had a lot of fur. And it had mud on its rump, and it was wider in the middle. Like I said, it was kind of leaning over toward the front, walking. The legs were big, like a donkey, maybe a mule or a horse, but they were wolf-like. They had that backward look. It was an animal, but I don't know. I thought about it for years. I don't know. Did I see a spirit? I'm not really sure. It had mud on it, and it was not afraid of us. For sure, it had power. Like, it looked at us like we were just stockpiled in the road. I think back now, and it could have killed us if it wanted to. It walked right by. When it got to the front of the Toyota, it was a little two-wheel drive. I was in the passenger side. It was so tall that I couldn't see it when it got close to the front. And it started walking right down her side of the truck, and she looked up at this thing. She looked straight up at it. I couldn't see what was going on. All I could see was the fur and its rump, and all that was it came by her driver's side window, and she made this weird sound like she was sucking air. Like she just looked straight, and it turned around and looked, and as it walked by the back window of the truck, and it just it walked funny, like a dog's legs on the back, There are many different, when a dog stands up, it looks almost crippled when it walks. Its knees were backwards, and as it went on by, I thought, oh my God, what is that? And it jumped on a little sage grass bank and kind of looked over at us. It kind of cocked its head and looked at me with just one eye. It never looked straight into my eyes, like straight over. I think I would have passed out if that had happened. My cousin, when it jumped off into the woods, she said, that didn't look right. And we're still sitting there idling. But it was so bold. It came along her truck and walked really slow. It wasn't running or anything like an animal. It just walked. It wasn't afraid, and I said it looked like a wolf. And she looked at me and she said, so you saw the same thing I saw? and she went to the preacher. She asked him what it was. He said some people see demons, some people see angels, but for years it bothered me so bad. Then I discovered the Dogman and the Bray Road Beast and started seeing sketches and pictures. Now I know what I saw. Tonight's third and final Dogman encounter brings us to Michigan. You're gonna think I'm crazy. I know I would. I just need to tell somebody. I was living in a single-wide mobile home in central Montcalm County, Michigan. It was near a crossroad, and I had just moved down from Tuck, Alaska. I was living alone with 2 cats, and I had just decorated for Christmas, putting up the tree, lights, and general stuff like that all around the house. I had a big picture window looking out at my wooded backyard with a stream about 100 feet from my trailer. You could see the Christmas tree in the window. It was beautiful. It looked just like a Christmas card if you could see it from the woods out and back in. I deal in facts in my job, and I have an MBA in accounting. This is difficult for me to relate to anybody. I saw this not only once, but 3 times in that Christmas season. It was about 11 o'clock the first night. I was watching the news, so it had to be around that time. The picture window wasn't draped because of the woods. I liked to see the stream and forest out my window. It reminded me of my home back in Alaska. The cats were a little antsy that night, darting back and forth under the tree and looking out the window. I thought there was a deer or maybe a black bear out in the woods. It happens more times than not. That's one of the reasons why I rented this trailer. I glanced out the window, and there it is. It looked like a wolf, and it was right outside of my picture window. So much so that the snout had hit the window. It was watching my cats. It didn't take any notice of me until I walked up to the window. It was looking right at me, and I was watching the, for a lack of better word, wolf. We were staring at each other for about 5 minutes. It had a canine appearance, but was bigger than any dog or wolf I had ever seen. You know that 80s movie, The Howling? It looked in a manner of that, if I had to say. There was one difference, though. It didn't seem to be evil or menacing. I'm very confident in saying that it looked like every other animal in the forest. It had a very domestic dog-like appearance. It had dark, matted fur and those eyes. I felt those eyes had lucid thought behind them. It didn't seem malicious, and the cats were right by me, looking at it. The cats sensed it out in the woods before I saw it. The cats didn't puff up, so I don't think it frightened them. But they knew something wasn't quite right. Then it did the strangest thing. It turned around and walked on 2 legs back to the woods. It was up on its hind legs and didn't drop to all 4s. The first thing I thought was it must be kids. I started to think better of it, and I was annoyed not knowing what I had just witnessed. You know that feeling I'm talking about, that little thing in the back of your mind saying, "Hold on, what just happened?" I wasn't going to get any sleep that night until I found out more, so I got dressed, put on my coat, and grabbed my flashlight. There was a moon out, and I could see everything till I got to the woods. There was paw prints from the stream to the trailer and back to the stream again. These were huge paw prints, not like any dog or wolf, and there was only 2 sets of them, not 4. I didn't think about photographing the paw prints or measuring them at the time. I walked up to the picture window. The paw print stopped, and I looked up to the window. My cats were watching me from inside of the trailer, and I noticed a snout print on the window. It dawned on me that I was looking up at the snout print. There's a dip in my backyard, and the trailer is a bit higher than usual. I'm 6'4", and I still had to look up and see the print when I was right outside. It was 7 to 7.5 feet from the ground to the snout print. It was eerie to know that something was not quite right out in those woods. It happened again twice about 2 weeks later. The only thing I could think is it was using the stream and the flat river for a road. and it was attracted to my Christmas lights in the picture window. It only pressed its snout against the window the first time. The other times it stopped about 15 to 20 feet from my trailer, a good 70 to 75 feet from the woods. There was snow on the ground, and it was crisp, clear winter night all 3 times. Here's something else. About 2, maybe 300 yards down Grow Road is a buck stop lure company. Basically, they sell deer pee in bottles. Maybe that's why this thing is around. I still don't know what I saw that Christmas season, but it was peculiar to say the least. I wonder what it was. I didn't feel afraid. It bothers me, not that I saw something, but what it was. That is what annoys me to no end. Wow, guys. I really like that last encounter. You know, guy's not afraid, and he didn't show fear. And the Dogman just looked at him and, strolled about a couple times on his property, but made no act of aggression. I like hearing stories like this every once in a while. The first encounter, what an amazing subscriber encounter. I was just reading somewhere about I forget the name of it, the extinct American hyena. And then, of course, we have the different variations of the Dogman, and there's a hyena breed. Something tells me this guy was a little lucky not going out into the woods with his buddy that time. And then the middle encounter, definitely a teenage girl writing that. I showed my 14-year-old daughter and I said, "Could you read this?" And it made perfect sense to her. And I like to read verbatim what I'm giving you guys, so that's what I had. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed these, and with that, I bid you farewell.